The Celtics take on the Hornets, 3 o'clock Eastern tip-off in the Queen City. Boston is minus 7.5, total at 210 and a hook. We saw a half a point fade of Boston and movement upward on the total. The Celtics open this one as the 8-point favorite, down to minus 7.5. Total open at 210, up to 210 and a hook. 66% of the consensus are leaning toward Boston. 71% are shaded toward the over. Right now, Charlotte is plus 280 on the money line. Now, if you like Charlotte in this matchup here at home, just keep in mind they're really struggling to score this year. And as a matter of fact, they rank in the bottom 3 in scoring, bottom 10 in offensive field goal percentage. Now, Charlotte's just 13 and 22 straight up overall for the year. And out of their 17 home games, they were victorious in just 7 of them. That's right, 7 and 10 straight up at home this year. They're right in the middle of a 5-game losing streak. They're also averaging just 104 points per contest. Now, they rank in the bottom 10 in offensive rebounding as well. They're in the bottom 5 in defensive field goal percentage at home as well. So really, when they're playing their games in Charlotte, struggling very much on both ends of the court. Now, Boston on the other side, they're one of the better covering teams on the road this year. As a matter of fact, they are 10-5 against the spread when traveling, 5-1 straight up in their last 6 games played at any location. They rank in the top 3 in points allowed, top 10 in defensive rebounding. They really put down the clamps on the defensive side of things. Now, Boston is 9-6 to the under on the road. Charlotte 10-7 to the under on their home court. I'm going to go ahead and lean Boston minus 7.5 and the under 210.5 in that game. Before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick timeout and welcome you to the show. Got some lines of personal leans out for Tuesday's NBA action, but more importantly, it's New Year's Eve. So happy New Year's Eve 2019 coming to a close. We're done with the 10s, and we are now moving into the 20s. Can't believe it. When I was growing up, when you referred to the 20s, you were actually referring to the 1920s. Well, we are going to be in the 20s in just 24 short hours. But anyway, before we go ahead and move on here tonight, just want to take a quick time out. And obviously, me and a group of my wife, bunch of her friends, bunch of my friends, best believe we're going to the casino tonight, man. We're going to have a great time. I love going to the casino on New Year's Eve, man. Nothing better. There's nothing better. I know it's crowded. I know you can't get a room. Well, you can get a room if you there are ways you can get a room. But anyway, love the casino on New Year's Eve. Nothing better. So anyway, before we go ahead and dive into some more free lines and personal leans right here on YouTube, I just want to take a quick time out and just quickly remind you to at least consider checking out my website at patreon.com/rockpage. Now, what we do on my website is we do premium sports picks on that site beginning at just $1.99 per month. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, dude, why would I pay for your Patreon when you're giving the picks away for free right here on YouTube? Well, that's a good point. But what we do on YouTube is we handicap every single game on the board, both the side and the total. And you can't bet every single game. You can't bet every single game side and total. You're going to lose your money in the long run. And as a matter of fact, you're probably going to end up losing your money in the short run as well. The books are way too smart. They're way too sharp. The math is against you. Don't bet every single game on the board side and total. We're just formulating an opinion here on YouTube on every game. We're not taking free passes. But what we do on Patreon, what we do on my website is we really narrow it down and focus in on 3 to 4 premium selections per day, premium picks, games that I personally have action on. And I'll tell you this much, my current record on Patreon is a whole lot better than it is, throwing darts here on YouTube, handicapping every single game side and total and not taking any passes. So anyway, you can check out my current record for free right now. All you have to do is click the link in the description section below. Once again, that is patreon.com/rockpage. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into some more free lines of personal leans right here on YouTube. All starts Eastern Standard Time. And on deck, we've got the Sixers taking on the Pacers, 3 o'clock Indiana. The Sixers are the 1.5-point favorite on the road, total at 212. We did see a half a point move toward the Sixers and movement downward on the total. The Sixers open as the 1-point favorite, up to minus 1.5. Total open 212.5, down to 212 even. 60% are leaning Sixers, 73% shaded toward the over. And right now, Indiana's plus $1.15 on the money line. Now, the Pacers are 13-3 straight up at home this year, 11-6 against the spread in those 17 games. Keep an eye on Malcolm Brogdon, as he is listed as questionable. I'm pretty optimistic that we will see him play tonight. Now, Indiana ranks in the top 10 in offensive field goal percentage. Certainly no problem scoring. They also rank in the top 10 in shooting the three ball. So be on the lookout for them shooting from downtown. Now, defensively, they really, put down the clamps here as well. They're allowing just 105 points per contest. Meanwhile, their opponents are shooting just 43% from the field against them. They rank in the top 5 in points allowed at home, top 5 in defending the three ball at home as well. Now, Philadelphia on the other side, great team, very talented, but they struggle when traveling. Out of their 17 road games, they've been victorious in just 7 of them. They're also just 7-10 against the spread in those games as well. They're averaging just 108 points per contest on the road, and they rank in the bottom 3 in road free throw percentage. So when they're traveling, all you got to do is foul them in the paint. They will miss. Anyway, Sixers, 3-5 straight up in their last 8, kind of struggling as of late, and they were held to 104 points or less in 4 out of those 5 losses. So certainly things not clicking for this Sixers squad as of late. Now, Philadelphia, ironically, they are 80% of the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, 4 out of Indiana's last 5 got over the total as well. I'm going to lean toward the home dog in this one. Give me the Pacers plus 1.5 and the over 212 in that game. Next matchup, Clippers taking on the Kings, 5 o'clock Eastern tip-off in Sacramento. The Clippers are 7.5, total 223. And, of course, no real surprises here. We saw movement toward the Clippers and movement upward on the total. The Clippers open -7 up to -7.5. Total open 221 up to 223. 67% of the consensus are leaning toward Los Angeles. 69% shaded toward the over. And right now, Sacramento is plus 270 on the money line. Now, Sacramento really struggling at home this year. And as a matter of fact, they're just 5-9 against the spread on their home court. They're right in the middle of a 7-game losing streak. They're ice cold. Things just aren't clicking right now. They're in the bottom 5 in scoring, bottom 3 in offensive rebounding, certainly struggling on the offensive side of things. Now, they're averaging just 104 points per contest on their home court, and they're in the bottom 10 in home offensive rebounding. Now, the Clippers on the other side, they are 23-11 straight up in the year, 6-4 straight up in their last 10. So they certainly are not struggling putting points on the board. They rank in the top 5 in scoring, top 5 in offensive rebounding, and they're getting the job done on the defensive side of things as well. They rank in the top 5 in defensive field goal percentage, and they're averaging 114 points per contest when traveling. Now, Sacramento, they are 9-5 to the under on their home court. I'm going to lean toward the road chalk in this one. Give me the Clippers -7.5 and the under 223 in that contest. Next game, Warriors taking on the Spurs, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off in San Antonio. The Spurs are the 11-point favorite, total at 216.5, and we did see a half-a-point move toward San Antonio. We also saw movement downward on the total. San Antonio opened 10.5 up to -11. Total opened 217.5 down to 216 and a hook. Now 56% are leaning Spurs, 63% toward the over. Golden State's plus 535 on the money line. Golden State's been victorious in 4 out of their last 5 games. I know they're terrible this year, but they're starting to heat up as of late. They're also 5-3 against the spread in their last 8 as well. Meanwhile, San Antonio, they are amongst the worst covering teams in the association. They're just 11-20 against the spread overall for the year. And out of their 17 home games on the season, they successfully covered the point spread in just 5 of those games. That's right, just 5-12 against the spread at home. They rank in the bottom 10 in points allowed, bottom 10 in home defensive rebounding. Now, San Antonio, they are 11-6 to the over on their home court. So I'm actually going to lean toward the road dog in this one. Certainly won't be a top-tier play for me, but I like Golden State plus 11 and the over 216.5 in that contest. Next game, Nuggets taking on the Rockets, 7 o'clock Houston, potential playoff matchup here. Houston's -2.5, total at 220. We saw a half-point move toward Houston and movement upward on the total. The Rockets open as the 2-point favorite, up to -2.5. Total open 219, up to 220. 53% are leaning Nuggets, 74% shaded toward the over. And right now, Denver is plus $1.20 on the money line. Now, Denver kind of, struggles to put points up on the board when traveling. They're just averaging 107 points per contest on the road. They're also just 6-7 against the spread when traveling as well. Meanwhile, Houston, 11-4 straight up at home. They rank in the top 3 in scoring. And when it comes to this total, we're looking at a Denver squad who's 8-5 to the under when traveling. I'm going to lean toward the home chalk in this one. Give me Houston minus 2.5 and the under 220 in that contest. Next game, Cavaliers taking on the Raptors, 7 o'clock Toronto. The Raptors are the 9-point favorite, total at 217.5. We saw a half a point fade of Toronto and movement upward on the total. The Raptors open 9.5, down to -9. Total open 217, up to 217 and a hook. 57% are leaning Toronto, 67% shaded toward the over. Right now, Cleveland is plus 390 on the money line. Now, Cleveland ranks in the bottom 5 in scoring, bottom 5 in defensive field goal percentage, struggling on both sides of the court. They are just 10-22 straight up on the season, 4-12 straight up on the road. Cleveland, they rank in the bottom 5 in road scoring, and they're allowing 115 points per contest away from home. Now, Toronto, on the other side, they rank in the top 5 in shooting the 3-ball, top 10 in points allowed. They're giving up just 106 points per contest on average per game. They're 13-5 straight up at the Scotiabank Arena, and they are 11-7 against the spread in those 18 games. Toronto ranks in the top 3 in defensive field goal percentage, top 5 in shooting the 3-ball at home. When it comes to the total, 11 out of Toronto's last 18 at home did get over the total. I'm going to lean Toronto Raptors -9 and the over 217.5 in that contest. Next and final matchup for the show, and that's the next and final matchup of the decade for the NBA. That is going to be Dallas taking on OKC, 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off in that game. The Mavs are the 1.5-point favorite, total at 218 and a hook. We saw a half a point move toward Dallas and movement downward on the total. The Mavericks open -1 up to -1.5. Total open 219 down to 218 and a hook. 72% are leaning Dallas, 69% shaded toward the over. Right now, OKC is plus $1.10 on the money line. OKC also ranks in the bottom 10 in offensive rebounding, bottom 10 in home defensive field goal percentage. Meanwhile, the Mavs on the other side, 12-4 against the spread when traveling. They rank in the top 3 in road scoring. 11 out of Dallas's last 16 away from home did get over the number. I'm going to lean Mavericks -1.5 and the over 218.5 in that game. All right, let's go ahead and dive into our quick pick recap. Once again, brought to you by patreon.com/BrockPage. I like Dallas -1.5 over 218 and a hook. Golden State +11 over 216.5. Houston -2.5 under 220. Toronto -9 over 217 and a hook. Clippers -7.5 under 223. Indiana +1.5 over 212. And last but certainly not least, I like the Boston Celtics -7.5 and the under 210 and a hook in that game. All right, let's go ahead and dive into some shout-outs. Got to give a shout-out to Whiplash95, Puppy God YouTube. Shout out to Lancaster City Low. Jonathan Arellano, Tom Beasy, CKY2K, Ryan Dunn. Shout out to Antoine Scott, LaGarvey, Shady McQueen, Eagles Clips, Seahawks Fan for Life, Blinks YouTube. Shout out to Louis Cosme, Walter Nipple, Davion Price, The Way, Sam Eshofoni. Shout out to Nateo, Brian Sharp, Incognito, Steve Quintanilla, and last but certainly not least, got to give a shout out to Damian Morgan. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive into our Spanish edition, also known as Edición en Español. Yo tengo Dallas -1.5 y las altas, Golden State con puntos y las altas, Houston -2.5 y los bajos, Toronto -9 y las altas, Clippers -7.5 y los bajos, Indiana con puntos y las altas, y final Boston -7.5 y los bajos. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Once again, don't forget to check me out on patreon.com/BrockPage. But most importantly, I got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. Happy New Year's Eve to you. So long, 2019. Hello, 2020. And a hello to a new decade. We are going to go ahead and get into the 20s here following tonight. But anyway, best of luck to you. And don't forget to check me out. I look forward to seeing you on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.